Welcome back. In the last steps, we saw that with JDBC, we write a lot of SQL queries and a lot of Java code. With Spring JDBC, we still write a lot of SQL queries, but less Java code. And with JPA, we don't need to worry about queries for the major part. We just need to map entities to tables, and we can make use of the entity manager. Now, what's the problem that Spring Data JPA solves? Spring Data JPA says, let's make JPA even more simple. You don't really need to worry about entity manager as well. I'll take care of everything. Let's see the magic of Spring Data JPA right now. Let's go over to our course JPA repository. Let's go to our project, go to the course. I'll create a new class. We already created an entity class. Course is our entity class where we have defined our mapping. So now I would create a course Spring Data JPA repository. And I'll put it in course.spring data JPA. And say finish. Actually, I should have created an interface in here. When you are making use of Spring Data JPA, you're making use of an interface, and you need to extend a specific interface called JPA repository. Control space JPA repository. You can see that this is a JPA specific extension of repository, and this is in the package org Spring Framework data.jpa.repository. So extends JPA repository. The first thing that we would want to configure in here is what entity does it manage. We would want to manage the course. And what's the ID field? The ID field is of type long. So in the course, this is the entity course, and the ID field is of type long. Let's organize the imports. We have the imports coming in, and save this. And now let's make use of Spring Data JPA. What I'll do is I'll go back to our course command line runner. And over here, we don't want to make use of the JPA repository. What we want to do is to make use of our new thing. We have a new kid on the block at autowired private course data Spring Data JPA repository. Save. Now, using the Spring Data JPA repository, it's very, very easy. So what I'll do is I'll change the inserts out to save. So save. Instead of insert, the Spring Data JPA repository method is save. The only other change that we would need to do is to change the type. We are passing in integers in here. The method expects long, so I'm adding an L at the end. So 1 long, 2 long, and 3 long. We ensured that the name of the methods that we used in the course JPA repository and the course JDBC repository match exactly the delete by ID and the find by ID methods, which are offered by the Spring Data JPA repository. If you go ahead and type in repository dot, you can see that it offers a wide variety of methods to play with your entities. Over here, whenever we are playing with Spring Data JPA, you see that you don't need to talk to the entity manager at all. Entity manager also goes into the background, and all that you need to do is to create an interface extending JPA repository, and a lot of wonderful methods are exposed to you. You can count the number of entities which are available. You can delete entities. You can delete a lot of things in batch if you'd want. You can delete by ID. And if you go further down, you'd see exists by ID, where you can check if an entity with a specific ID exists. You can do a find all the entities which are present in a specific table. And you'd see that there are a lot of such methods which are available in here. We already made use of the save method. Save is used to either update an entity or insert an entity. Let's now actually remove this for now. Save this, stop and start our server, stop, and launch it up again. When you look at the logs, you should see that most of the things are exactly the same as before. However, The biggest difference is the fact that with Spring Data JPA, you need to write even lesser code. With Spring Data JPA repository, all that we needed to do was to create this interface. In the last few steps, we took the journey from Spring JDBC to JPA to Spring Data JPA. We saw that Spring Data JPA makes JPA really, really easy. All that you need to do is to define the entities. Once you have the entities ready, you can create a Spring Data JPA repository class extending JPA repository with the entity and the ID. Once you do this, you saw that there was a lot of magic which comes into picture. I'm sure you're having a wonderful time, and I'll see you in the next step.